Hello and welcome to Tarot Electric. I am Mary Shock, and I'm going to offer you, the listener, tarot guidance that you need to hear right now in this present moment for your highest good across time and space to reach you wherever you are. And we got the Hermit. Okay. The Hermit is all about that inward dive into yourself for healing. The Hermit is all about healing, healing, healing from the past. The Hermit wraps things up, heals, so that you can move on. But you can only do this type of emotional mental healing by going within. So it's not a time to try and socialize with everyone in your community. It's not a time to take on extra responsibility. This is a moment to get in touch with yourself, your inner voice, your spiritual guides and guardians. And that inner voice will whisper to you just how to heal, heal, heal up. And you're really wanting to look over your past and look at what has wounded you, then shine a healing light over that in order to heal, forgive, and then move on. And the thing with the Hermit is that it's an energy that gets us all healed up and then says, hey, don't go back out there. Don't get back into the world. You're just going to get hurt again. It says we did all this work to get you healthy. Don't go back out there and get hurt again. But that is the test and that is the challenge for the Hermit, to come out of the cave, to come down from the mountains, to get involved with community, to share what has healed you so that it might heal others as well. Because after we work on this healing, we find our divine inner truth. And that is something that needs to be shared with the community, and you cannot do that from your cave. You cannot do that from within yourself. So the Hermit gives you that moment for rest, repose, rejuvenation, healing within, but then it asks you to come back out. That's the test of the Hermit, to get out there in community and share what you've learned. So you know where you are in your Hermit journey, and you probably can feel it in your heart whether you're being encouraged to get internal, do that internal personal work, or if you're maybe towards the end of your Hermit journey and it's time for you to get outside of yourself again. Only you can know that. So many blessings, and I hope that you can all find that healing from within, because it's really the only place to get it. So today I am going to talk all about making your very own tarot deck, because that's something that I have experience with. So when I created the Summer Tarot deck originally, and I know I've shared some of the origin stories of the Summer Tarot deck in previous podcast episodes, like the storytelling episode, so I'm not going to get so much into that because you can go back and look and check it out. I'm going to really get into the specifics about self-publishing your own tarot deck today. But just to recap, when I originally created the artwork for the Summer Tarot deck, I made it in the summer of 2011, and I made it very quickly. And I actually had a Marseille tarot deck that I was using, and I had Bristol paper, and that's a very heavy kind of paper. And I traced my tarot cards from the Marseille deck onto this Bristol paper and cut them out. So I had these actual size pieces of Bristol paper, tarot card, like traditional tarot card size, and I had all of my collage materials, which I had collected over the years because I was already making collage art, and and then I just started going for it. I made the Summer Tarot deck by analog collage, hand cut collage, and just worked with these pieces of cut out Bristol paper and my magazine collection, collage book collection, and cut them out, pasted them. I used Mod Podge right onto the actual size tarot card. And my collection of collage material was a lot of vintage magazines, a lot of National Geographic, Playboys, you see that in there, and then all of these great vintage photography magazines, and a lot of them were French. So they just had the best images. And then I had a little bit of everything else, books, vintage books, and I would just collect collage materials from all over. I was living at the Copycat warehouse in Baltimore, not when I made the Summer Tarot deck, but before, and they had the loading dock there where people would drop things off for free. That's where I got the French photography magazines. I would get a lot of magazines and books from the loading dock there, so I'm ever grateful. When I created the Summer Tarot deck, I made all 22 cards of the Major Arcana in about a month, a little over a month, and I was trying to finish it to take it to this festival. I was really making it for me personally. I wasn't thinking, oh, one day I'm going to publish this. That's why I just made the Major Arcana, and because I was inspired by the Marseille Tarot deck. So the Major Arcana in a Marseille is the most standout, interesting part of a tarot deck. So I never really thought about making the Minor Arcana, and it worked really well with just the majors, so I never really felt the need to create the minors for this deck. And I made it in one summer, so that's why I called it the Summer Tarot deck. But I did edit some cards after that original month of creation. Some of them I edited very quickly within that month or within the next year, like Temperance, I changed a little bit, but some of them took longer. So it really took the next 5 years for me to have every single card, all 22 cards, be the final image that I wanted. And some of that took exploring, going to other places and collecting new material, like finding the image of the emperor in Mexico. And some of it just took me living my life and understanding the cards that I was struggling with more, because their messages were really things that I was personally struggling with. Like justice was always difficult for me to understand, and it wasn't until I spent some time really meditating on what the justice card really meant to me that I was able to create an image that worked for me in my tarot deck, in the Summer Tarot deck. So over that 4 or 5 year period, I would sometimes use the deck, I would sometimes just put it away. And I'm really grateful to everyone in my life who encouraged me to keep working with it and was excited when I would show it to them and would ask for me to read for them with it, including my friend Max, who would always ask me to bring it out for Thanksgiving. If I wasn't honestly working with that deck at least once a year at Thanksgiving in that time, or whenever I would get to hang out with Max, I don't know if I would have paid such close attention to it or held onto it in such a sacred way, because I've definitely let a lot of work of mine go and get lost or be given away. So it was definitely other people around me who responded to the deck that encouraged me to take such good care of it, and it reminded me that the deck was important even when I had forgotten, really. So cut to 4 or 5 years later, and my love of tarot is coming back into my life. I mean, I had never stopped loving tarot, but I had definitely sometimes taken a break from reading for other people or sharing that love with the world. So my desire to share the Summer Tarot deck and my desire to share my tarot gifts really were rekindled at around the same time. And I just realized, oh, the Summer Tarot deck, I like it. I want to share it. And I felt like, oh, I have a piece of artwork that is done or nearly done because I still finished a couple cards in that last year. But I was like, oh, I have something that I want to share that I've already made, and it really inspired me, and I wanted to share it with everybody else. So once I had finished all of the images and found the star was the last card that I finished, which was just that like bing burst of like inspiration, you know? When I finished the star, all of the images of the Summer Tarot deck were finished, and then I had to figure out how to self-publish it. And that was honestly really difficult, but it was definitely worth doing. So the first thing I had to do was get my handmade images digital. And I'm really grateful for my friend Victor, who helped me do that, used their scanner. So if you have a handmade tarot deck at home, the first thing you're going to have to do is get a high quality scan of all of your cards. So that's what Victor and I did. And then you're probably going to have to do some light editing on the images to make sure that the scans really reflect the vibrance and the quality of your handmade images. And for that, my friend William came into the picture, and William helped me a lot on the way. So I'm super, super grateful for William. So William took all of the scans and edited them, some more than others, and just made sure that the scans reflected what the originals looked like. So that means like punching up the colors, working on some places where the paper of the originals had maybe ripped or crinkled or faded in a way that looked weird. I remember Strength ended up looking like she had this weird, because of the way the paper had faded, like she was drooling kind of, which is pretty beautiful in and of itself, but I did not want that on all of the decks. So William was able to fix that for me. I remember the Empress's fingers had ripped off because she's holding on to this staff. And when I had made the originals, I had just glued them back on, but you could see where they were ripped. So William was able to edit that so her hand didn't look like it had been ripped and then glued back on. So the little things had to get touched up. And then you're gonna want to add a border. So let's talk about borders with tarot decks. Some people don't like them, and I totally understand why. And if you have a version of the Summer Tarot deck and you want to cut the borders off, just know that is okay with me. I totally understand. I think that the deck would look beautiful without borders. So if you want to do that, it's fine with me. But for me, I had always envisioned the Summer Tarot deck as having a gold border. I think that it's so classic. It speaks to those old Renaissance style tarot decks like the Visconti, and it also played up and touched on the gold detail that I had added to the original cards around all of the Roman numerals. So I had cut out Roman numerals from like handmade paper, and you can find this kind of paper at craft stores and stuff like that. It's like handmade paper, and I cut out all of the Roman numerals and then painted with a gold paint pen this gold work around all of the Roman numerals. So I had always imagined a gold border for the Summer Tarot deck. I thought it would just look gilded and Renaissance style, speak to old books, and it would look rich and beautiful. So William was able to make that happen. William made the gold border, and it's just exactly what I envisioned, and I love the border. And William was able to take the gold of the border and then really make sure that the gold around the Roman numerals stood out and that they were really the same gold. So that's something else that William did that really pulled the whole deck together in its digital images and as something that would be printed and shared in a mass scale. And the other thing is, if you're making a tarot deck, whether or not you have handmade images or maybe you've made the images on the computer, so you already started with digital work, it's extra challenging to create a tarot deck without a border because once you get to the printing process, they need room to cut for the print, right? So when your tarot decks are printed, they have a machine. I'm guessing it's a machine. I mean, I guess I don't fully know, but I'm pretty sure it's a cutting machine, and that machine needs extra room around the borders to cut so that you're not cutting the artwork off. So they call it a bleed. They call it a bleed. So you really just need this border in order to protect all of your precious artwork inside. So I guess you could make a border that is maybe a faded image from your card artwork, or if you're working digitally, you can make the border, the same style of artwork, but just have all the main stuff in the middle. Does that make sense? If you're gonna try and print a borderless deck, it's gonna be extra challenging, but it can definitely be done. But for everyone out there who hates borders on all their decks, just know that they're there for a reason, and as an artist, it's pretty essential to have a border most of the time. It's not there just to bulk up your deck or anything like that. I like a lot of borders because I think that they make each card kind of tell the same story when you're looking at them. But some borders I don't like. So I totally get it. And you can do whatever you want with the Summer Tarot deck. If you want to cut the borders off, it's totally fine with me. But that's why they're there. And I like them. I like the gold way they look. So you're making your own tarot deck. You've punched up the image. The fronts of all of the cards are ready to go. Their color looks good. You've got a border that's good. Then you have to have a design for the back of the tarot card. So for this, I worked with William. And I had a bit of an idea of what I wanted in the triple moon symbol. So that's a goddess symbol, and it has the full moon in the middle, and then it has the waxing and the waning moon on either side. So this is sometimes seen in like the Crown of Isis when you look at the High Priestess and the Rider-Waite deck. She's wearing this crown, the Crown of Isis, the Egyptian goddess, and that's a nod to the triple moon goddess symbol. And that's what I wanted for the back of my deck because I believe that it puts everyone in touch with their intuition, their own inner goddess, and the moon. So I was just talking to William. I said, I think that this would be a cool image, but I don't know exactly how to get it on the back of the deck. And if it could maybe incorporate my moon card, which my moon is a basket. I have several baskets from Native American cultures in the Summer Tarot deck. The sun, the moon, the wheel of fortune, they're all baskets. So I was thinking if the moon of my tarot deck could be incorporated into this, that would work out really well. And then William just took it and did an amazing job, used my moon from my deck and incorporated it with another image of a moon and made this triple moon goddess symbol. And then the whole background of the back of the deck is this beautiful purple with kind of cloud images, very abstract. And the purple and cloud images are also from the moon tarot deck of my deck. So if you have the Summer Tarot deck, or if you're looking at my website, maryshock.com, you can look at all the decks. Then you can see the moon, and you can see that the color is the same from the background, and you can see the basket. So William created the back of the tarot deck, and I was just so happy with it. And then my other friend, Audra, who I'm really grateful for, also took a swing at the back of the tarot deck, made it completely symmetrical, because that was a big thing for me, was that I wanted all of the backs to be the same, whether the cards were right side up or reversed, so that when you were shuffling, you could have reversed cards, but you wouldn't know it based on the back. So Audra was able to mirror that image so that it looked like exactly the same, whether the cards were upside down or right side up. So that was one of my dreams, and it's just up to you if you're making your own deck whether or not you want folks to be able to look at the back of the cards and know whether the cards are right side up or reversed. And if you don't want that, then you're just going to have to make sure that the back of the cards are the same or mirrored images, and that they won't kind of give it away. So this took like a year to get all of that done after I had originally wanted to do it. And I could not have done it with all of the folks that I mentioned, because I don't work digitally. I don't work making art on a computer, and I can't use Photoshop. I don't have that skill, so I was super grateful to all my friends who helped me, because otherwise I could not have been able to get this done, and they really helped me. So thank you to William and Audra and Victor and all my friends who helped me along the way with making the Summer Tarot deck something that was digital. Okay, so once I had the final images that were like ready to go, then I had to find a printer that would print the deck. And that was surprisingly more difficult than I originally anticipated. For me, because the Summer Tarot deck features nude images, and I know you're thinking, well, most tarot decks actually feature nude images, which is totally true. The star and the world of the tarot deck are traditionally nude, not to mention like images in the devil and sometimes the lovers. So the tarot decks traditionally have nude images, but my images in the Summer Tarot deck some of them are taken from Playboys and pornographic magazines, so they really look nude, and they really flag a publisher's idea of what is pornography, I guess, because I've repurposed them. So to me, they're not pornography, they're not something that is created for arousing sexual pleasure. But if they do that, that's totally fine. But all of the images have really been repurposed in a way, so they're not, the Summer Tarot deck is not pornographic, but the images are so clearly from pornographic magazines. They're all vintage, so it's not even like new. But it definitely raised some red flags for people, and was a little bit more challenging to find a publisher. So if you're trying to print a tarot deck, you're going to have a couple different options that maybe I didn't have, like makeplayingcards.com, and I believe it's printerstudio.com. So those are the two big print your own card deck kind of companies that are online. I kind of think that they're run by the same overall company just based on my research and experiences with both of them, and neither of them would print my deck in the end. But and I believe that they're printing in Asia, both of them, but I'm not 100% about any of that information. Basically, they're both big companies that are hard to have personal conversation with. But they are going to offer the lowest prices of printing your tarot deck, and you could print just one tarot deck from them. You know, it would be expensive, but it it would be maybe $20 to $50 depending on how many cards you had and how you want them printed and stuff like that. So that's not really that expensive to just print one deck, or you could print 10 or 50 or 75 decks from them. So they're good if your images aren't going to flag them as being inappropriate, which mine did, so I couldn't do it. They're good if you want a really small run, right? Anything less than 100 is a really small run of decks. And they're good if you just have to do like the cheapest thing. Maybe they're also good if your images are not like super complex. You know, if maybe if you did like a pretty simple line work style deck, the print would probably be good. And if you have something like my work that were these scans of photography, you know, I really needed a high quality image. So it really made a difference. The print had to just be really super nice. But if you were doing something that was maybe black and white and line work, it might not actually matter that much paying more for like specialty super high quality printing. Um, so I know that people have worked with both of these companies to do tarot decks. They'll do tarot decks specifically. You can get tarot deck size. They have all these different options. So that's one way you can go. And you upload all of your images personally. You know, like there's a it's very much like an online experience. So you upload your image, you're looking at it, you're manipulating it on the screen, kind of like making your own little edits and stuff like that. So it's very much kind of do it yourself. And they're going to have specific requirements for the the size and quality of your images and how they fit into their design layouts. So if you started with a high quality scan, you're really not going to have issues with the size and quality of your images. That's why you really need to start out with the super high quality scan. And it's a good idea to maybe have an idea of what company you're actually going to use to print before and while you're making the final digital images. So that way you can check which size you need, make sure the DPI is big enough. So there's some technical things that each printer is going to maybe be a little bit different about what they need. Oh, also like what file type they need to be in. TIFF actually is what I ended up using, I believe. Um, so if you know what company you're printing with before you do all the like fine detail, final work of making your digital images, it'll help because you won't have to backtrack as much, and you can be either looking into what are the final requirements of the company you're working with, um, or if you're working with a company that's more personal and able to get that one-on-one communication, you can just be asking them, what do I need? What file? What size? What's the DPI? What's everything that you need from me, right? So Printer Studio, MakePlayingCards.com. Worth a shot. For me, it didn't work. For one of them, they just straight up wouldn't print the decks, and I forget which is which, but for one of them, they actually printed my deck. They printed it once and sent it to me. My deck is only 22 cards, so was a little bit less expensive than if you were going to print 78 cards, right? A full-size tarot deck. So I believe it was around $20. I think it was Printer Studio that printed it, but I kind of forget it was one of them, Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio. So they printed my deck, sent it to me, about $25, $20 to print these 22 cards, and I got it and I was like, oh, actually this will work, right? I can print 100 tarot decks. The image quality was a little dark for me. It wasn't my favorite. They offered you two paper qualities. One was linen and one wasn't. And they had different paper weights. So that's a thing with paper. You want it to be a good paper weight. And the linen was heavier, maybe like 330 versus 300 for the other kind. So I thought the linen will be good. I got it, but it came in this weird kind of texture and it was darker. So then I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can use this printer. They'll print my deck. I don't love this linen, and let me try it on a different type of paper. So I placed the order again with the different weight of paper, and they sent me an email and were like, we cannot print this for you. This has nude images. And I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. I also couldn't find any place in Baltimore that would print it either. And it became kind of unclear to me whether that was because the local studios could not print a deck of cards, because printing a deck of cards is kind of a specialty thing. You want that paper, and that's definitely one thing. You need a heavy cardstock paper, about 300 for the weight, or 330 is, I think, pretty typical. But the other thing is that some printers don't have, that you really want, is a rounded edge. So you want a rounded edge for your cards so that they get that great shuffle. Obviously, you want a rounded edge. Have you ever seen a deck of cards, playing cards or tarot cards without a rounded edge? You really want it. So I contacted a bunch of printers locally in Baltimore, and I was like, I want to print this deck. I need this. Do you have this kind of paper? Do you have the rounded edge? Also, it has some nudity. Will you print it? And everyone got back to me and was like, we're not going to be able to print this for you. So it's kind of hard for me to tell if it was because they couldn't do it, maybe they don't have the rounded edge, etc., or if they just didn't want to print the nude images. But that was like kind of a funny hiccup, and I'm not mad about it. I don't really anticipate that other folks who are maybe drawing or painting or creating in a digital illustration will have the same issues that I did, just because my nude images are clearly people, and the lovers are kind of boning. So it's just very specific, my work with nudity, but that's what happened for me. So the printer that I ended up going with, I love them so much and highly recommend Shuffled Ink. They're out of Florida. They used to have a different name when I first started working with them, Quality Car. I forget, honestly, at this point. Quality something. So maybe if you've done some research, or if you Google how to make your own tarot deck, you're going to find a couple of resources. There's one that's very good, that's old, but that's very good. I'll try and put a link up in the show notes, and they're going to call it like Quality Paper or something like that, Quality Printers. But anyway, I started working with them, and in the middle of the process of working with them, they changed their name to Shuffled Ink. So but they're the same company. So you can find them by searching Shuffled Ink, and they'll come right up, and they're out of Florida. So they were just amazing to me, completely every step of the way. They had no problem printing my artwork. They understood that it was original artwork and not pornography. Hallelujah. They talked to me just about all my questions, gave me a quote, were very, very helpful, knew all about printing tarot decks. I've printed tarot decks for all kinds of people and knew exactly what I needed. Round edge, of course they can do a round edge. They know what the little white book is, so that's your tarot booklet that's going to come in your deck telling everyone what all the cards mean, so they could print that. They knew just what it was. They can print a custom box. And they got back to me right away. Communication was great. They helped me. They were just amazing. So I really recommend Shuffled Ink for all your tarot deck needs, to be honest. Because I did have to kind of up my order. Originally, I was thinking I just wanted to print 100 tarot decks, but for their quotes, it really made sense for me to print 250 because that was a place where I was getting a price cut that seemed doable. Now I'm really glad that I did that, because if I had only printed 100, I wouldn't have any now, and I only self-published them in February of this year, at the very end of February, and now it's almost July. So if I had done that, I wouldn't have any decks now, just a couple months later. So 250 was the perfect number for me. And so I had to print 250 to work with them, but that was okay. And their image quality and the print quality is so good. The paper feels amazing. The cards look amazing. So much better than the sample that I got from one of the cheaper places that do it yourself online, make playing cards, Shuffled Ink, not Shuffled Ink, they're amazing. Make playing cards or Printer Studio. The quality of those prints really would not have done it for me like the quality of Shuffled Ink did. It's just, the quality's amazing. I was honestly blown away and so happy with it. And I've gotten a really good response about the printing. So I can't recommend them enough. They were so great. Then the other thing is, if you think about it too, I don't know exactly what the shipping prices would be for Make Playing Cards or Printer Studio, but I'm pretty sure that both of those companies are coming out of Asia. So you're going to pay, if you're in the United States, you're going to pay a lot for shipping. Shuffled Ink is in Florida. I think I paid a lot less from shipping from Florida than I would have from Asia. So even though their prices per deck were a little bit higher, not honestly by much at all, it turned out in the end. But I think that the shipping price was probably a lot lower than if I had gotten them shipped from a whole other country. So, and it was worth it to pay a little bit more per deck to have the image be amazing, you know? So for me, that's the printer I went with. They were incredible. I'm so grateful for them. What you do is you get a proof of your artwork and they'll send it to you. So that'll be sheets of uncut cards, so you can feel the paper, you can look at the images, you can approve all of like what the final cards will actually look like, and they'll send this to you once you've paid for the printing. So Shuffled Ink, they're just amazing quality, and once you've paid for the printing, you'll get this proof and you'll be able to feel it and hold it and check to make sure that all the cards are perfect before you go ahead with the final printing. The other thing I liked about Shuffled Ink was that they were really patient with me, because when I originally asked for quotes and started gathering information, and then it was a long time until I was finally placing this order and printing the deck, because I had to raise all the money. But they stuck with me, they held on to my info, they knew who I was, they didn't forget about me, they weren't rushing me to do anything, so they were really patient throughout the process. And then when I finally got the box, it just felt like such an amazing day, and I ended up with high quality prints, and they were made in the USA, which I really appreciate. So those were all the great things about Shuffled Ink. They were amazing. To be honest, I did have a little bit, like when I was getting ready to print them, they printed them very quickly for me because I had a time frame. I shouldn't have done it this way, but I was like, I'm printing them now. I need them in, I think, 3 weeks. And that's like the minimum of how long they need to print these cards. That was honestly a little bit borderline unreasonable expectation on my part. And I was like, and I'm leaving for the tarot conference in Portland, so I need these decks by this day. And then in the middle, they had like this huge fluke. I do not think this happens a lot over there. And a machine broke, and I think it was the machine that cuts them. So I think I'm right. They do use like a digital thing that cuts the cards. So then it just became this huge source of anxiety for me because I was worried that they weren't going to come in my time frame. But they did, and they made it happen. They were incredible. So give yourself a big time frame of when you can get these decks. Don't put that kind of stress on yourself because it was really, it was super stressful. And the whole time I recognized that I was asking for a lot from them, and Shuffled Ink really stepped up and did it. So I was super, super grateful. So, okay. You've picked out the company that you want to work with. Maybe it's Shuffled Ink because they were amazing. They're not paying me to say this. Or maybe it's whoever, you know. And if you live in maybe a bigger city than Baltimore, maybe there's a local place, like if you live in LA or New York or something. So check with your local folks, but I couldn't find a place that did it. Then, once I found the company that I wanted to work with, I needed to raise all the money. And I did that on Indiegogo. So that's a crowdfunding website where you can raise money for your project. There are a couple different ones. You probably know all about them. There's Kickstarter, which Kickstarter, you know, you only get to keep the money if you raise all the funds. So if you're trying to raise $2,500 and you try and do it in 2 months, by the end of that 2 months, if you don't raise $250, you don't get to keep any of that money. So maybe that's a good place for you if you know that if you don't make the goal, you're not going to be able to print them at all. So you wouldn't want to be taking people's money. But for me, I wanted to do Indiegogo because Indiegogo, even if I didn't raise that $2,500 in that 2 months, even if I didn't raise that, I would get to keep whatever amount of money I raised. So if I raised $1,000, I would have kept it. If I raised $2,000, I would have kept it. And for me, I was like, this is just gonna have to work. I'm gonna hold on to whatever money I raise, and I'll put in the rest from my personal savings / I probably would have had to hustle and read a bunch of tarot to make up the rest of that money. So for me, Indiegogo was the way to go. And William helped me with Indiegogo also because William helped me make my video. The thing with Indiegogo is you have to make a video to submit your project. And I don't know if you have to do that for Kickstarter, but I think it's pretty well established that having a video for your project makes people feel comfortable with donating. So I would definitely create some sort of video. And it doesn't have to be the fanciest thing in the world, but just to show what you're doing. So I made this video and it was cute. And really to make these crowdfunding pages, it's a lot of writing, and it's a lot of practicing writing about who you are, what your project is, how you're making this project come together, and how much money you need and how you're going to use it. So you have to write really well about what your project is and what your art is, and you have to make people trust you, you have to make people want the project. A bunch of good pictures help too. So all of that stuff you're going to need for Indiegogo. And honestly, a lot of people don't like writing. Stuff like this is going to make you a better writer, and a lot of this copy you can probably put other places too in the end, like describing your process. You can probably put that on your website so people can know what it's like to create your own deck. So it's just good practice. So get in there, make your own Indiegogo and practice with that writing. Have somebody edit it and help you out. It's really important. And when you start to go through the process, they'll remind you, but the thing is, all these sites take a cut. So Indiegogo takes, I forget how much they take right now. It's a bit. They take a percentage. They take a percentage, and the credit card and PayPal processing, that takes a percentage. And they'll tell you what it is, so you have to factor that into the final amount that you're trying to raise. And mine was about I think it was $2,400. So you have to factor that in, that they're going to take a cut of the money that you raise. The other thing you have to remember for tarot, for your tarot deck, is to factor in the shipping. Not only the shipping of your decks to get to you from the printer, but also to ship out all of the perks that you're doing. So when you do these campaigns, you have perks, and they are gifts or items that people are buying basically when they're donating. So it's kind of like they're giving you a donation and you're sending them this little thank you gift, but really it's like they're buying it, to be honest. And they say you should always have a $25 perk, not a 20, not a 27, but a $25 perk. You have to have it. And check it out. You could do I would do a couple different perks, but not too many, and make them stuff that people actually want. But just keep in mind that Indiegogo, it doesn't factor in the cost of mailing that perk. So you have to factor that into your final price too. So I would set whatever goal you're thinking, I would add at least like $500 to that, because you're going to use that money in the end. Something's going to come up and you're going to need it. If you don't make it all, that's okay. You'll still get to keep the money. It's Indiegogo, and you're going to have to buy packaging materials to ship out all of these perks, right? But for your tarot deck, you're really going to want to make one of the perks, probably the best one, this is what everyone's going to buy, is a pre-order of your tarot deck. So people can donate. For me, it was that $25, because the Summer Tarot deck runs $20. That's how much it costs. It's just 22 cards. Your deck might be 78 cards. It might cost more than $20. But that was my $25 perk, and folks got a print of it as well. So they would get a print of one card and a deck, and that's what they got for $25. And it was so nice to be able to do pre-orders like this, because as soon as I got the tarot decks, I was able to send out into the world about 70 decks. I reached my full goal. I believe you can also. People want to support you. People want to support art. People want to buy tarot decks. So I believe that you can reach your goal. I reached mine, and as soon as I got those decks, I put out there about 70 in the world. That felt amazing. And if I had just maybe ordered the decks and was trying to like sell them one by one, I would have so many right now. I feel overwhelming. It's hard to get these decks out there in the world. It's not impossible, but it's definitely like each one is a sale for me, you know? But with an Indiegogo campaign, you can get a lot out there right away. So that was really, really encouraging to me. It made me feel good. Now my friends have them. They show their friends. Maybe they want to buy one. So highly recommend doing an online funding campaign. Make it a pre-order. Be careful about your money. Ask for more than you actually think you need, because you will use those funds. And when you're making your tarot deck, you have to think about the printer, which we talked a lot about, but you have to think about the packaging as well. So for me, I decided to create my own little white books, and I printed them out with the help of my friend Carly, who was very, very helpful to me through a lot of this. And Carly and we printed them out, and I cut them and folded them all individually. This was honestly, it definitely saved me some money. They also look kind of DIY, but that's okay. That's a style of my deck. I probably could have just gotten shuffled ink to make the booklet for me and saved myself some time and just spent the money on that. But I did it myself. It took a lot of time, but at any rate, however you do it, you really want to include a booklet, because otherwise folks are like, how do I even use this? So you have to include the booklet. And then you want to figure out how you want the tarot deck to come. So I thought about making a box. Shuffled Ink would make a custom box that would fit my cards, even though they were less cards than a traditional tarot deck. But I decided that I wanted to put my deck in a bag. For me, I don't really use tarot boxes personally. I end up getting rid of them and wrapping all my decks in a fabric or something like that, especially if they're a well-loved deck, because I find that the cardboard boxes just kind of fall apart shortly after using them. So that's why I was thinking, I don't want to just put this in a box. The boxing can get a little bit pricey too, and the bags were going to be a less expensive item, and doing all of this did allow me to keep that price point really low so that I could sell the decks for $20 rather than $30. So I got these cotton bags from online, and I made my own stamp. I ordered a rubber stamp that says the Summer Tarot deck and has a drawing that I made on it. And I stamped all the bags by hand, but the stamps, I didn't make the stamp like thick enough lines, so they didn't really stand out. So I had to go over each one with a fabric pen and trace it on. So that was a huge amount of work. So as soon as I got the tarot decks, I was putting all of the bags together, and I like packaged the whole deck myself. Honestly, that was a ton of work. I don't know if I would recommend it. Actually, what I would do if I were to go back and do it again would be to get someone local in Baltimore to screen print all of the bags for me, and I would get an artist to design a screen print, and then I would go and screen print all the bags. But I just didn't do that. I think that would have been really nice though. And now looking back, I see, the Summer Tarot deck, the decks are flipping beautiful, like very high quality decks. Folks like them. That's the feedback I'm getting. The bag situation and the book, it's very DIY. It's very like punk rock tarot. It's very Baltimore, and I like it. I like the style. I like keeping my deck in a little bag. You can put your crystals in it. I like it. But I see now that it's a more difficult sell for a small business to have these bags on their shelves, and people are like, oh, I don't even know what's inside, or it doesn't look professional, or even some folks maybe at an event would rather buy something, a tarot deck that was in a little box that had images of the cards on it, that looked less handmade. Even if they can open it up and see the cards inside, it still is a little too DIY for some folks. So looking back and looking into the future, what I would actually love to do is get a custom made box that has, the Summer Tarot deck. It's all designed, it has images of the cards, and then you open it up, and inside the deck is in the bag. Because I love the bag. I don't want to get rid of the bag, but I think the box is a good selling point. So for me, I would love to get boxes made now for the 150 that I have left or so, and box them all up, and maybe that's something I'll do in the future. So that's just for you. Like, first of all, factor all the money into what you need to raise in terms of what you need to create your booklet and what you need to package it. And then think about the packaging. You could get kind of creative. I definitely think that a box is pretty helpful. So, if you want to be like me and put it in a bag, go ahead and do it. But maybe put it in a box also. That's what I would like to do. Those are all things you need to keep in mind. So then I was like doing the Indiegogo campaign, and the funny thing about that is I was 100% ready to launch my Indiegogo campaign. I had written everything, made the video, submitted it, it got approved. Everything was ready to go. And then the election happened. And it was November. And effing Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. And I was so, like, honestly, I wasn't hugely surprised because I'm not disillusioned at the state of this country and how much this country is plagued by corruption and racism and sexism. So it wasn't a huge surprise to me, this election, but it was devastating. And it did really make me feel like, oh my God, I was going to launch my Indiegogo, but what does this mean for my tarot deck? So I had a lot of thoughts and feelings, but definitely part of what was happening for me at that time was my tarot deck, and I waited a couple weeks. I was really upset. I waited a couple weeks. I was like, no one's going to pay any attention to what I have going on. Everyone, like on Facebook, where I'm going to be trying to promote this and get people to submit and donate, contribute. They actually say to not call them donations, to just call them contributions, because people are contributing to the campaign. It's not like charity. Okay, but I was like, no one's going to pay attention. Everyone's just going to be talking about Trump. So I had to wait for that to die down a little bit, and then I launched it. And I was definitely nervous. I still thought that so much might be going on that my project would get lost, but my friends and my family and even some strangers really came through and donated, and I reached my whole goal, and that was flipping amazing. And then when I finally got them, I bagged up all the perks and mailed out 40 or so. I honestly forget. I had some pickups in Baltimore, but I mailed out all of my perks the same day that the box of tarot decks was delivered to me, because in just like 5 days I was leaving for Portland for the tarot symposium. I had a tarot deck release party that was really fun in Baltimore at Holy Underground, and yeah, it's just been a total journey ever since, but I couldn't have done it without all my friends' help along the way, without Shuffled Ink, without my Indiegogo campaign, and I'm just really grateful. It feels really, really good. Now you can buy them on my website, so that's key. And my Instagram presence is where I'm putting most of my focus in terms of creating and chatting with community, and hopefully creating some sales from that. And you can also buy the Summer Tarot deck in Ramona, California at Unicorn Books. So that's close to San Diego in Southern California. You can buy the Summer Tarot deck at Tarot Society in Brooklyn, New York. And you can buy the Summer Tarot deck here in Baltimore at Bazaar in Hamden. So there are some very exclusive locations where you can buy the Summer Tarot deck in person. And gosh, I feel like that's about it, So I really hope that this helps inspire anyone who is thinking about making their own tarot deck. I think that new tarot decks are very cool. I think they're awesome. I'm straight up just interested in looking at the art, and I think they're important because tarot is something that speaks to our collective unconscious. So as our culture and spirituality and humankind moves in life and our collective unconscious shifts and changes and grows and flows, the tarot also needs to shift and flow and grow to speak to that. So I think that new tarot decks are really flippin' cool, and I think they're important. So I think you should all go out there and try and publish them, get them self-published, and share them with your community, because people should be grateful. And yeah, I really hope that helps. That's self-publishing your very own tarot deck. If you have specific questions you'd like to ask me about printing a tarot deck, just send me a message on Instagram. I'm at Tarot Electric. Or you can email me. You can find all my contact information on my website, maryshock.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have about creating your own tarot deck. And yeah, that's about it. If you're in Baltimore, I've got Tarot Club coming up July 2nd at Holy Underground. That's Sunday at 7 p.m. We're going to talk about the lovers. I've got some tricks up my sleeve, some activities we can do together, and it's going to be straight up lovely. So please come out to Tarot Club. I'm also reading this Thursday, July 29th at Strangers Becoming Sisters. So that's on Facebook if you want to check it out. It's going to be great. Come and join me. We're going to have an intimate reading. And yeah, I just appreciate everyone who's listening, supporting me in my tarot journey, and being a part of it. I send you guys so many loves and so many blessings. And oh, if you're listening to this today on Tuesday, I have a tarot special, Midsummer Tarot reading, where I'm offering half off tarot readings. That's a half an hour tarot reading for $20, and you can get it on email, phone, Skype, however you want, in person in Baltimore. So if you're in the mood to get a tarot reading from me, this is a good time to do it. $20, half an hour. Just email me at maryshocktarot@gmail.com and put in the subject heading Midsummer. It's the Midsummer Tarot Reading Special, and that's from right now until June 28th. So it's just like today, Tuesday, and then tomorrow, June 28th, is your last day. And you don't have to get a tarot reading on one of these days, but you just have to email me and schedule it sometime before the end of the day on the 28th. All right. Many blessings. Bye.